You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the June 28th, 2023 meeting of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
We'll call the June 28th meeting of the Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Justin Keel,
Present.
Michael Rosenbaum,
Present.
Scott Cooley,
Here.
Tom Fath,
Present.
Randy Novak,
Present.
Mark Parkman,
Present.
Rich Merzinski,
Here.
Ron Dispense. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, you have the agenda before you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Randy, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment. Are there any public comments? Also, realizing, do we have Zoom going here?
Apparently not.
Keep on rolling. I know IT was on the email this time. We don't have Zoom going.
Did you take AV in high school?
Do we have the Zoom link?
There wasn't Zoom back in high school. Tell you that safely.
Are we on?
I did it in junior.
We're on Alco?
We had
And I even learned how to
I'll follow up
splice
with IT
tapes.
next time.
Yeah.
We'll-
Film.
I know they were on the email, so
It says,
Because it happened.
well, it says July 3rd
we got to
for next month, yeah.
The big,
Okay, still go on with public comment. Any public comment? There's no public comment. We'll close public comment and move on to the approval of minutes. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Randy, second by Scott. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. On to communications.
Communications, Auditor's Office for the Treasurer's Report was received. Harold Argus submitted the June claims and allowances for publications, received D&M's pay request number 14, sent pay requests 13 and 14 to USI Engineering for approval and signature. Auditor's Office to prepare the June 23rd automated POs. Picked up RDC mail in the Auditor's Office, filed, sorted same. Auditor's Office, I delivered the signed May POs. Auditor Deputy your June bond payment. Your June bond payment was made as per the Director of Sender and Company. JBC Rail regarding the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invoicing and the BOT amendments updates. As a side note, JBC Rail has received their check. Commissioners emailed the BOT amendment for consideration at the June Commissioners meeting. Found out it was actually approved at the June 7 Commissioners meeting, which is great. Called Ryan at D&M for their pay request 14 because it hadn't yet been received before the legal notice was advertised, but we were able to get it before then. We received an invoice in June for Sender Dalton that will be on your July agenda. RDC Attorney Rail Committee member appointments, sent that information to Guy. State House report, something Matt sent me. Bond payment schedule, she actually paid your 421 bond payment on June 22nd. And I talked to the auditor about the JBC Rail expedited check. And then I talked with the president and the secretary about your redesigned agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the communications? If not, we'll move on to the treasurer's report and the consideration of claims.
Treasurer's report, your balances are after the payment of today's claims. US 421, $273,208. US 421 allocation area 2, balance is 0. KIDC TIF, $113,393. 39 North, 91,554. The auditor's office has dispersed your first installment of your TIF allocation. That is included in the balances I gave you. US 421 allocation area 1 received $151,202. US 421 allocation area 2 received $124,655. Those funds were immediately used to make your bond payment. KIDC received $57,853. 39 North in the June settlement received $21,828. End of Treasurer's report.
Thank you very much. Consideration of claims. Claims are on the back of your agenda.
Do we need a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the
made the
treasurer's
motion.
report? Motion by Mr. Rosenbaum,
Second the motion.
second by Mr. Fath. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Consideration of claims. On the back of your agenda is the claims. We'll take them one at a time. Is there a motion to approve the KIDC claims for an amount totaling $5,610.67?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rosenbaum, second by Mr. Cooley. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. US 421 number 1 TIF, there's for a total of $3,644.41. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rosenbaum,
Second.
second by Mr. Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. 39 North TIF, total of $1,323.29. Is there a motion to that
Motion
effect?
to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rosenbaum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. US 421 project claims. We have one in the total of $37,231.35. Is there a motion to approve that claim?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rosenbaum. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Mr. Fath. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Up next is the I-94 US 35 Utility Infrastructure Design Services claim for a total of $3,000. Is there a motion to approve that one?
Motion to. Second.
Motion by Mr. Cooley? No. Mr. Brzezinski. Second by Mr. Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And the last one, KIDC Bridge Project Ready Grant claims in the amount of $216,355.63. Is there a motion for that one?
Is this the one that we're paying ahead of the grant? Is that what this?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Parkman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Which account you gonna take that out of?
Which account?
Economic Development Lit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where it was taken from.
Why is that?
That's where it was approved from.
Yep. Monday night, yeah.
All right then.
Called the ayes. Are there any nays? Motion carries. And that completes the claims. Brings us to old business, 421 I-94 TIF update. Mr. Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a brief update here submitted to me by Mitch regarding the construction. Sewer taps on 300 are completed. Asphalt for those will be done today. Waiting on AT&T west of 421, so sewer can continue to the west. Working on grass restoration. That's from the infrastructure project. On the development side, we are still in negotiations with the project from Great Lakes Capital. We've asked them to do a little research and a better job of building materials, i.e. no metal buildings, brick, tilt-up are the options for that location. Jeff Smoke agreed to do that. He went back to his contractor. I suspect after the 4th of July week, I'll get some more updated information. It would not surprise me if he comes back to this body requesting TIF. That's what he was looking to do in Michigan City before that whole fiasco unfolded. So I'm excited about the opportunity. It's a good project. The zoning's right for it. We just needed to have better building materials. We have a pretty substantive investment by the hospital across the street, and it would be in concert with the previous expenditures done for the hotels and for IU Health that were done in that same area. So looking forward to completing, getting that done and completed. That's all I have. Any questions about 421 and 94 that are out there by anybody?
Man,
Yes, sir.
where we at with Love? It looks like their construction's starting.
Yep,
they've
they're
got the whole thing
in
clear.
process. So
What about the check?
from our friend,
Yeah,
no check yet. That's not the Loves guy. That's the,
Vladimir
gosh, what's his name? I always forget.
Gans.
Yeah, it's Mr. Gans, yeah. No check from Mr. Gans, but they won't be able to tap in, and he's been made aware of that. So I'm sure Loves will be in contact with Mr. Gans about their inability to tap into sewer and water, and they'll be in breach of the real estate agreement he had. So I suspect we'll get our $75,000 sooner than later.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Matt. I just wanted to let the board know the contractors out there so far, they're good local contractors,
Great.
putting local people to work. So everything we're doing looks like it's going well.
Well, that was one of the items that Loves brought up way back when. I forget the gentleman's name from Loves who came in, Frank something, and he said, "No, we use local guys." And a lot of companies say that. Oh yeah, we use local guys. And next thing you know, there's a guy from Kentucky doing who's the general who brought his whole family up here to do work, and that's not what we want to see happen here. We want to see local contractors getting a shot and opportunity to bid it. So that's good news.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to the KIP TIF update.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. We're going to have there'll be a meeting with a company by the name of Project Phoenix that'll be coming up here the week after the fair. It's a project that came through once before. We're going to have a discussion about the project location and so on. It won't be before this body. But it's part of our continued due diligence on vetting of the potential investment. We'd love to see it. It's about $1 billion. It seems that the utility opportunity, meaning electric and gas, lines up for this particular use. So we have a better chance than not in getting this. You know, the other part about the electricity, I'm just going to bring it up here. There was some press about the battery plant going in New Carlisle, and you know, press called and asked me what I thought, and I said, well, you know, it's good for the area. And what happened with that really does underscore the efforts that NIPSCO and the county and others have done to create the strategic site initiative location at Kingsbury. That's all about having the right kind of power for those big mega investments. And you know, we have the data together. NIPSCO is aware of what they have to do. So, you know, as long as they continue down that process and we're able to up the availability of power at Kingsbury, that's going to really continue to bring that location into the discussion for these plants related to automated vehicles and all of that. You know, that's really all I have on the update. Doug BG will cover what's going on at Kingsbury Elevator. If you've been out there lately, you can see that they're working in the easement, and he's doing the rail. For those that weren't part of the meetings or not, the council came in and decided it was okay to use some funds to be reimbursed by the Ready grant, which was great. Allows the contract to move forward. I think everybody's good with that. The CSX is I think we're pretty close to done. I think we need one more signature. Once we do that, we'll get it cleared with CSX and figure out what their timeline and traffic is for cutting the check, so that they can get started and do that. And that's the update I have at KIP. I'm not going to get into the roadway discussion again. We're still there. I know that Mark asked for a list. We sent it to him of all the owners. It's a long one. But Doug's here, and maybe Doug can answer some questions about all that because he knows a little bit about trying to get together who owns the roads and what the process should be previous. But between Guy and Doug, that's the effort here. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. And find the money to do it. That's the other part. I think it'd be a waste of effort to get everybody together and go, hey, we're all going to do this, except we don't have a plan to build it. I think it's going to put people off a little bit.
Was there some paperwork in the past that had been signed about the roads and stuff? Are you familiar with anything? One of the customers out there said that they'd already signed some stuff in the past. Different attorneys, different scenarios.
That would have been for Hupp Road.
Hupp Road?
Not any of the other roads. Doug, do you remember any of that? No, they're like Central or 1st through 6th. No, it just would have been for Hupp. So that was true, and it had been done, but not on the balance of the roads.
Any other questions or comments related to KIP? If not, we'll move on to 39 North TIF.
The project, gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the $80 million investment at 39 North is proceeding. There's been some deliberation between the city of LaPorte being able to serve the project, and that information has been shared with the client. And I think that's probably the last question outstanding for the project that would locate there. The next step in that action will be for members of the Redevelopment Commission to sit down with the leadership of the city to discuss, deconstructing the TIF and what would happen and how the funds would flow for the project if the project's annexed. So, like I said, there's a part of the statute that allows for cooperation between two entities to do this. I would recommend that we proceed that way. At the end of the day, that was the reason why the TIF was set up. How do we solve the water sewer issue out here, which is just like the other ones, which has been the process. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and with any luck, we'll have an announcement sooner than later about a project out there. Be good for everybody.
Have you been in communication with Mayor Dermody or someone from his staff about the status of the annexation? Does it look like it's going to go through? And if so, on what timeline?
I was pretty careful, President, not to engage in the annexation discussion. That's immaterial to what we're trying to do. The issue issue that was of concern to me as a developer professional is that there was an agreement to extend water and sewer. What happens after that really is up to the landowner and the city if they want to be annexed or what those negotiations might be. But the letter was provided, and that's really what I was looking for. I wish everybody out there the best of luck, but what we wanted was the utilities extension and the promise to invest $12 million in the water upgrades at that location to facilitate more development. And so that was also in the letter that was transmitted. So we're heading in the right direction. Hope they get it worked out.
If I may, I attended a City of LaPorte council meeting, and they had announced that they did have all the signatures necessary. I'm not getting into the details of it, but one of the other processes is that they did say that this takes a period of time. They go through public hearings, and they also felt that it may be a 2-year or 3-year process. Mm-hmm. So the question is, how do you work in between? The tricky part is how do you work in between and develop when this process is going on? So there may be a good opportunity to speak with the city and 39 North Conservancy to make sure that we continue the process and supply, get the line supplied for whatever business that we can get in there. Because as soon as we get business in there, it's better for the entire county.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to the 3594 TIF.
No update, as there has not been a substantive change in what the city's position was, but we did get some news from the state of Indiana regarding rebuild of the visitor center, which is, well, guess what? It's right up the road. And in this notification from the INDOT, it also talks about sewer and water extension to the visitor center. And I couldn't help but think, well, gee whiz, wasn't that what we were trying to do to work with the city to get them to extend the sewer and water down to 35, 20, and 94? So as things go, if the state got this far, they're probably pretty locked down on the location. But the opportunist in me says this: well, if you are bringing sewer and water to that location, we should take the opportunity to look at ancillary development next to this. So I've already reached out to the design engineers about the project, and we'll be in communication with them. It's in the county. It's not in Michigan City. And yeah, I mean, we're going to try and follow the path. You're putting sewer and water out. Let's try and do some more development. Now, what that may or may not do to what Wilkins had proposed at his location, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be bad. I think we can kind of continue to work concurrently. I mean, you think about it logically. If the city is willing to run water and sewer to a tax-exempt entity that's designed for people to stop, go to the bathroom, and buy a bag of chips, why on earth would they not want to extend utilities to a location that's designed for people to come and stay and have weddings and create jobs? It's just not logical, but that's the lay of the land with that.
I do have a question. I'm not sure where the site location is. Does this mean that they would be picking up part of the tab for us to do some of the linear footage, or we're just talking two different directions?
Don't know. Well, it's goes out to the highway, so that's the inquiry to them is, hey, wait, what are you doing? Where's it going? If you're going to there, why aren't we running it down here? We can separate the two projects. One of them still becomes a federal project. There's a DES number associated with the thing already. So it's to get there, it's pretty far along, right? Yeah. And so we just want to know and be able to leverage what the expense is being undertaken, or suggestion to run sewer and water to the site. I mean, I agree with them. That should happen. But it also provides us as an opportunity as a county to leverage that to do potentially other projects around there. Assuming one, there might be surplus property owned by the state as part of that project, or two, there's willing sellers adjacent to the travel center that might want to sell their property for other purposes. And perhaps people like Wilkins and others might entertain doing a project at that location, which is also on 94 and in a good spot, as opposed to others. But it's another marketing opportunity for the county.
Any other questions or comments? Not, thank you very much. We will move on to new business. Number 1, Construction Rail Planning Committee appointments. Mr. DiMartino.
So the last time y'all had a rail committee was in 2021. You didn't need it in 2022, but now with the potential work that's going to be going on with Mr. Biji's client out at the industrial complex, there's going to be rail laid, and according to the declarations that's going on, that declarations that we have to the land, you're going to need to reset your rail committee because any plans are going to have to be reviewed by the rail committee. The other thing that we're going to have to think about if Mr. Biji's client, if their project goes through, is we're going to have to think about amending the declarations because his client is not a signatory to the declarations. The third thing that they're going to be looking for is an easement across some of our property. So Doug will be talking about those issues, but the board's going to need to appoint a new rail committee because this is about ready to go forward. There's been an engineer that's already been retained, and I believe plans have already come forward. So in the past, you've had 7 plus Jay Sullivan. So it's your pleasure what you want to do in the past. The last board that you have was Mr. Kaur, Klozinski, Molenauer, Novak, Dobin, Reel, Mr. Rosenbaum, and Jay Sullivan. Those were the members of the
I
committee.
believe Mr. Mullenhour was because he sat on this board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Two members from this.
Yeah, so,
So,
At the time that it was created, was there any particular composition it was just 7 people plus Mr. Sullivan?
minimum of 3.
You know, 3?
Yeah, 3 or more. So I don't know how you all came about doing it in the past. I haven't seen any rule, regulation, or ordinance or resolution.
Mr. Reardon?
No, I think, Guy's correct, and I think in the interest of being able to make good use of this meeting time and date, that members of this body serve on that like a subcommittee, and Jay Sullivan is part of it. I think that's critical. Did you agree that probably makes some sense? Either we meet before or after, and you guys can review the plans. I think it's good to have the engineer on board to do that and to make sure we're heading in the right direction. I think that's also good.
I think you also had a couple of folks from the community, right?
I think we did at the time, but I guess, which I'm not opposed, but I would also say that these people are people from the community too, so.
Russ and JT were
Right,
from the public,
right.
maybe one other person.
And Mr. Dobbin was also, Bill Dobbin was also.
Right.
And that was at
There
the
was a
end.
newer member there
Yeah.
towards the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And the colonel.
The Colonel. So it's entirely up to you. I think, we do need to amend the document and,
Yeah, I guess the first thing, we'll need to get the committee in place.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be done the first of every year, but obviously there's been no need, so we're in June.
Do you see, how many meetings do you see coming out of this committee?
That's going to depend upon the committee and how much information they're going to be given by Mr. Beege and his client, depending upon what they need to go through in order to make the determination. So you're going to have to look at, their plans and do that. And then we're going to have to look and make sure that the easement's going to be okay when we construct the easement. So I would think 2 or 3.
For quite a while there, we always had a rail meeting prior to this. I mean, it only lasted a half an hour. I mean, but it was always at 3:30 and at 4 o'clock we had this meeting. So, I mean, we had those for quite a while until we ran out, it got to the point where we had the agreement all together and we didn't need to meet anymore. So,
Early on, we were meeting out at Doug Davies' place.
right.
Early on, I've been on it for 17 years, so I got a little history with it. Where we would meet with the JBC and Ed Glenborg and Doug Davies and
Right.
I can't remember the colonel's name. He was did rail work when he was in the Army.
Oh, gosh.
Dale
Dale.
Klingman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
so speaking of going to KIP, well, one of the members suggested that we have a little field trip so that you guys can actually see KIP and actually see. I know Ed would love to host you and show you what he's been doing, and I'm sure Doug would love to be there too. So I think we should also plan something or a lunch out there at Ed's place and just drive around there. It's the enormity of that development. It looks, you see it on a map and you're like, oh. But when you get out there, it's enormous. It will also help inform the membership of the dire need to either figure out who's going to do the roads or not. I mean, you'll see firsthand. It's hard to describe. You're thinking, probably conjuring up in your mind, there's some potholes. And no, I mean, these are legitimately, if it was in a neighborhood, whoever was
road.
There's some road.
There's some.
That's
Potholes are the nicest part.
That's an accurate description. At least you ran into a pothole. Everything else out there, you don't know. So I think that also could happen. Maybe we could host the next meeting at Kingsbury at the boardroom Ed has, if
I
you
like
want.
the idea of a good field trip. So question for Mr. DiMartino. How quickly do we need to establish the membership of this committee? Do you want us to do that tonight or put forth some names and approve it at the next meeting?
Doug, when are you going to be ready to present your plans? That would really...
Yeah, the plans are complete. So they're doing 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. We're concerned with phase 1 right now. That will be through to the end of the Bloom property. Engineering's done and CN has approved the plans. The reason we're requesting the the rail committee be reformed. If you look at the declarations, it requires that the rail committee approve the plans. Now, the rail committee could hire an engineer to review the plans. I think that's silly because CN has already reviewed them. And so they have the highest standards anyway. But we, as part of my presentation, he's ready to break ground. He's ready to retain Delta 3 to start work. So so they're ready to go whenever you want to form the committee for review and approval.
And the other thing is, you know, they're coming before us. They're not a signatory to the declaration, so we're gonna have to get that declaration amended also.
Okay.
So it runs through the properties.
So in that case, I would probably open the floor to nominations for this committee. Let's throw some people on there.
Well, Mr. President, I would like to be on it, and then Mr. Dobbins said he would continue to do it. However, currently, we would need to have Zoom working for that. He's currently out.
We'll be working on that.
Yeah.
I think Russ Klazinski, who was the chairman of that committee, and I think Joe Core would give it some continuity from the past. So, and whether I'm on it or not, it doesn't matter. If somebody else wants to do it, they can do it. I'd be happy to do it, but I don't want to ruin somebody else's afternoon of talking.
Yeah, Russ put a lot of time and effort in it. He really did. He would, we had a document that was, I don't remember how many pages.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I read all that. I thought he was joking. And I went through, oh no, he read it. He was marking spots on
He knows what he's doing.
he's very thorough.
And Joe Core knows what he's doing.
Joe Cord knows what he's doing. Yeah, we
He's
met
been
out there
involved for a
So
long time.
it sounds like we have a list of 5 names to start with the committee, and we can add more, so.
You've got 4 so far. Who am I missing?
Well,
You, Dobbin, Plazinski, Core.
and either Randy or somebody else who would like to sit on there.
I'm happy to sit on it.
Can there only be 2 RDC members?
No,
No,
You can have as many as
There's
you
no
want.
we have
makeup.
as many as you want.
Yeah, there's no specific makeup.
Could be on it.
Yeah, we can move it up to, no, then we can move it to 7.
We can have more members. I mean, there's no set number, and there's no quorum thing that we're gonna violate, because it's gonna be announced, it's gonna be an open meeting anyway.
Yep.
So,
Anybody else?
who doesn't wanna be on it? Let's raise your hand. If you don't wanna be on it, raise your hand. All right, everybody's on it, so.
Okay.
Okay, so our membership, Mr. Reardon.
If I could, I
You
would
didn't wanna be.
recommend that the rail committee meet probably the week after the 4th of July, so that you have time to digest. You know, Doug's client is ready to spend money in Kingsbury, and I don't think we want to be in the way of that. If you feel that's important, it would be okay. I think there's enough separation. Once, if the board decides who's on the member, you can, you'll see the documents and the explanation. I'm sure Doug will be happy to, you'll learn more about when he's talking. But his point that CN Railroad approved it is, kind of tells me what I need to know.
And I just want to clarify too, whatever the rail committee approves, then comes to the RDC to approve.
Correct. The rail committee does not
Right,
vote.
they don't approve anything that we're not going to approve eventually, so, yeah.
Okay, so the members that have been put forth so far are Mr. Rosenbaum, Mr. Dobbin, Mr. Klasinski, Mr. Core, Mr. Fath, and I'm happy to participate as well. Are we comfortable with that membership?
And then, are you gonna ask the engineer?
Yes, and Mr. Sullivan, of course, as well. There's no modifications to that. Is there a motion to approve those members to that effect?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Novak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cooley. Any further discussion?
Your name went on it.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
I do have a question. Mary Jane, do you have the information on those other people that we can contact them?
I'm sure she does.
Because we may have appointed them, but we still need to ask.
They may not know.
Yeah, Janice and Phil.
Hope they're watching it right now.
Yeah, not.
I can contact Joe and Russ easily and let you know tomorrow.
That's excellent, thank you. And then, was there anybody else?
Mr. Dobbin, I think.
I can contact him. I'll text him after the meeting.
Do we have a master list of when the room's available, so y'all can look at potentially setting a meeting?
The only person who maintains that is the commissioner's office, to my knowledge. So we will have to check with them, and we can suggest a date, a day of the week, and a date and time, and
If you just suggest like 3 dates, I can go check them all and then send you an email tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll check with
Do you want
Deborah.
to do that right now?
It's okay with waiting to the next meeting. I'm just trying to make sure we're not getting in the way of somebody trying to make an investment.
Well,
You're gonna wait.
I understand the next meeting, that would be the vote, but I think there's gonna be a lot of material that's gonna need to be put before them, and we don't want to.
So
let's
the
have
suggestion
something
would take a look at 2 weeks from today. And then if Wednesday's not good, Thursday as an alternative. I'm not sure,
That puts you
that
ready.
works.
Same time, 4 p.m. or 3:30, or what's the time?
Yeah, I know. I have to be everywhere too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's start an email group and kind of try and get dates from everybody, and maybe set up like a doodle poll or something where people can say what dates are available. That might be easier especially since we're missing 3 people right now. We might throw out dates that don't work for them. Does that sound agreeable?
I just know 4 o'clock.
And you don't anticipate in that first meeting that they're going to approve anything, they're just gonna get started.
No, the rail committee,
I'm loving you.
but then you can present to yourselves at the RDC if you're able to do it.
But then we can wait till that RDC meeting, or do we need to schedule one right after that?
No, you can wait till the
We always
RDC
had an
meeting.
RDC meeting right after the rail meeting. in the past.
Right, so what I'm envisioning is that you can have the meeting in 2 weeks. You can have a short meeting before the RDC meeting if you have any other thing you need to follow up on, and then you can vote
Okay.
at the RDC meeting if that works. Because we want them to be able to start ground when the weather's still decent.
Right.
Sounds good. Okay, so we'll be working on setting up dates and contacting the membership then. Okay, any other matters or discussion on that construction rail planning committee?
Russ Klozinski is in.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, moving on to Kingsbury Elevator Rail Project, Mr. Beachy.
Thank you. Now, as far as the rail committee is concerned, I'll tell you, I'm gonna bring the plans, tell you CN has approved them, ask that it pass through and the rail committee waive an additional engineering review, although it has the authority to ask Kingsbury to hire engineers. Since it's already been reviewed by CN, I think that's redundant and unnecessary cost and delay. So I'm standing here today to let you know, CN's approved the plans, Kingsbury's been working on this for a while. They've retained Delta 3 for phase 1, phase 2 won't come till next year. So they're ready to break ground and start work. Ed's already signed a contract with Delta 3, okay? All the surveying's done from what Kingsbury's gonna do all the way to DNR. So the plans are out here, okay? We got one small piece that I think Matt and I have to get taken care of, but I don't think it's an issue at all. We may end up breaking ground before we have all these agreements in place unless somebody on the RDC has an objection to that. And it's gonna be earthwork is what they're gonna start on. So they're gonna get moving on. I'm here mostly as a courtesy to let you know, Kingsbury's moving. As soon as they had that approval from CN, he's hot on it, okay? So they're gonna start engineering the second phase basically now. All right, so they have been and continue to spend money on the project, and they're trying to get her done.
So Doug, the first phase is on his land, right? You don't come to our land till the phase 2?
Well, no, he goes through the Bloom property.
Okay.
And either way, it's going to be on the county easement, but Ed's talking to Bloom because I think they're going to do a land swap for a small parcel.
One little sliver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not done yet, but by the time they get the earthwork done off Kingsbury onto Bloom's property, I think I'll have that swap done.
But the ground that you're breaking right now is on your client's property?
Correct. Yeah. But I'm just giving everybody a heads up. Once they start moving, they're gonna keep going. Okay. Well, we should have everything ready to go for next meeting as far as agreements and signatures, because we need to add on. I need to get an easement drafted. Since I got the private client, I'm kind of carrying the water here. So that's kind of the norm. Does anybody have any questions?
When this rail is done, it stays with Kingsbury, right? It's their rail.
Well,
Putting it in, it's
what we're gonna do.
That's a rub. That's something that's gonna need to be negotiated.
okay. That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I contemplated doing was an easement for 100 years for the rail. I got an inquiry into Mike Schultz to find out how he's treating Kingsbury's existing rail. I think he's treating that as personal property. I don't think it's getting taxed, but that answer is going to have. What's that?
It should not be.
Well, I want to make sure
I agree.
because that answer is going to have some bearing on what we do on who owns what.
Right.
Okay. But what I contemplated was Kingsbury would own the rail, we'd have a 100-year easement, and would be responsible for the maintenance on that part of the rail that it installed. That way, there's no maintenance issues with the RDC or the county, and Kingsbury's on the hook for it. So that's kind of what I contemplated.
Except Kingsbury can't get mad and stand out there and stop other people from using that area of the.
Right. Only their lawyer.
Lay across the track.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a whole Western scenario.
Bring the wire cutters.
Yeah.
Chain cutters.
So, and again, we had to make some adjustments on the route, but
Yeah, if you could, Doug, could you go back to the start when we met probably a year ago and there was some discrepancy, not discrepancy, just a better way. And I think it's worth noting that your client went back and paid some more money, redesigned it, and found a better way to connect. And, so I think that's worth talking about.
yeah, that's true. And that's a good point, Matt. Not only did we get the surveys, I ran title on each little parcel and checked to make sure we didn't have anything interfering from an easement standpoint, since it's such an old park and we've got easements all over the place. And so we did have to move a few things to avoid issues with others, third-party easements or people that would have interest in it. And so those two pieces of paper don't look like a whole lot, but that's about a year's worth of work. And so what we know we're 100% on a route, at least what Kingsbury's going to install. Okay. And Ed wants me to start coming to all the RDC meetings, so you'll see my smiling face from now on until this damn thing's done.
Are there any
Got
other?
3 months to get it done.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. Well, I'm pushing because Kingsbury was teed up a little bit faster after the CN approval than I contemplated. Otherwise, I would have been here a month ago. I didn't realize he already had his contractors lined up as soon as CN approved their plan. So,
Are there any other questions for Mr. Beachy? If not, thank you very
all right,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you every month.
Up next is a discussion about residential TIFs. Mr. Rosenbaum and I were at a AIC conference recently, or training recently, and they talked a little bit about residential TIFs as something that changed in the most recent legislative session. I thought I'd ask Mr. Reardon to kind of give us an overview, what potentials exist, and maybe get the ball rolling or a conversation started about that.
Thank you. The General Assembly made it easier for everybody to do residential TIFs. And so that's really the summary, and I'll spare the editorializing. For the purposes of the original legislation was to help places that were having a challenging time to get development. So here we are. You can set up a residential TIF. They're essentially private activity bonds purchased by a developer, and they install the water and sewer and roads, and the Redevelopment Commission of the jurisdiction collects the new increment from the residential housing and remits payment to the bondholders, aka the developer. And in an active project with another client, the developer front funded $12 million of infrastructure to do the subdivision. And that was the only portion that was covered by TIF. They also spent another $5 million, and that's a number they consistently remind me of that they also spend. But that fact notwithstanding, they're the bond buyers. There is an interest rate affixed to it, and the agreement stretched for 25 years and just essentially says if there's increment, you get it back. If there is an increment, you don't get it. There's a split of the increment that was negotiated in the transaction where the particular jurisdiction determined it was in their best interest to keep the municipal portion of the tax rate held back for them to do other projects in the area. So where it stands with the county, I would say that probably the most important part of this is to get concurrence as to what is the best location so as to not offend or cause issue with adjoining property owners. How's that?
My understanding is that you were involved with the housing TIF or residential TIF in town of Hebron.
Correct.
Did they come to you? How did that get started, and are they happy with how that turned out for them?
Well, there's a house that got built, so one down and 287 to go. But the roads were put in the right way. The design was done pursuant to what the jurisdiction wanted, and the private developer bought the bonds, and the contractors building the houses. So, I don't mean to make it sound easy, because that was a 2.5 year process to get through the design and everything. But here's the thing that occurred in the community: they wanted more housing, they wanted more population. They made a deliberate decision. How do we do this? I'm like, well, here's a chance. And at the time, they had to qualify. So you had to have had, I think, like 1% growth over the last 3 years in order to even qualify to use this. Because intuitively, houses have people have kids go to school, schools cost money. Right. So oftentimes people talk about why TIF is bad, and I don't agree, but that's their thought. This allowed for participation of the school district to have to decide. So Trail Creek is trying to do this on an 80-acre piece right now. It's not a giant deal, but it's the only way that they could get a developer interested enough to build 90 houses. Is I'm going to give you a little bit of money back. So, I think the most important thing would be to identify the right site that has sewer and water or can get sewer and water. Trying to tell a developer, hey, great, you're in, we're going to give you a TIF. Except you're going to have to spend $10 million to get the water, to then spend $15 million to do the project. And they're going to do it somewhere else. There's places that they can be done. So I think it's a great idea. There was a study commissioned 2 years ago that talked about a demand for housing in LaPorte, and it was a big number, but hey, let's just start with 250 and see what we do. Yes.
Originally, these TIFs were only one per community. Is that the way it's still set up?
The whole TIF?
Yeah. So
you got, there's one per community.
Is that still in place?
Yeah, but Hebron has 2 different areas in the one area, so it's a big area. It looks like an amoeba, but yeah, and they're 2 different allocation areas. So
okay,
yeah, but it is, you got to pick.
The city of LaPorte would not be considered one.
No, LaPorte can do their own. Any jurisdiction can do their own. So as a county, we would pick an area. So I would say, if this is the area, this is a big area that has a lot of opportunity. So is it somewhere between Michigan City and LaPorte? I don't know. Is it south of LaPorte City? I don't know, but it works.
But we're still limited to one.
As far as I know, yes.
Right.
Like,
and we got to.
Heights would be one. Westville would be one.
Everybody gets their own. They could do their own deal. So, wouldn't that be, so if you go through the math, you got X number of jurisdictions and they're all doing one, good for them, right? But the county would have one chance at it. So you want to make it big enough, and you go and want to make it what you want. For the town of Hebron, adding 500 new houses was a lot of houses for the town of Hebron.
Probably
and that's what's drawn up, and they're halfway there with the project. So, if that's where the commission wants to go, I mean, I have contacts in the building industry that I've worked with in the past that, would like. They've approached me before about other, like, do you have any other ideas or other places? And, like I said, I think it's critical based on some of the struggle last time when there was a residential development that was proposed. We just want to eliminate that. I mean, we don't want to have any kind of issue with the plan commission. And furthermore, if we're going to set up a residential TIF, it's going to cause the plan commission to have to approve it anyway. So de facto, we're going to have property that gets created, a plan drawn up that has estimates of infrastructure and cost and connectivity, but also explicitly outlines and directs the plan commission to change the zoning to allow for residential development as defined by what the commission would want: single family, multifamily, owner occupied, rental, so on. And you could put all that in the document. That would be first approved by the Redevelopment Commission. It goes, the guy would create a declaratory resolution for the plan in the area. The plan document would be drafted by MCR. You would approve it. It would go to the council or the plan commission. Order of the plan commission. Do we approve it? Do we not? Goes to the city council or county council. They would approve it, sends it back to you. And the minute you start doing finance, you're also talking about the county council and county commissioners connected. So everybody's involved. So nobody doesn't know.
So if I may, I wanted this to be brought forward, and I'm really glad it got onto the agenda. You know, one of the problems or things that we keep trying to do is we keep trying to bring businesses here, and we keep trying to get economic development in that. The problem is that we don't have a big enough workforce if we keep bringing in all these companies, and it's not like, you know, they'll start coming in from elsewhere, or we're not going to get them. There was a mattress company, we don't need to mention names, and they couldn't get enough people. They were saddled by other reasons, but the biggest complaint is they couldn't get enough other people. We're all fighting for people by creating opportunities where people can afford a home in a community where there's plenty of jobs. It's very helpful. I mean, I can talk about other states and what they have done, and how this small, tiny little town now, you know, is a big hub because, you know, they're high-paying jobs because they couldn't get anybody there. And we don't want things to get out of control. I mean, paying somebody at McDonald's is $20 right now is a good price, but, you know, I don't want to see it be 30 and then we can't hire at the county either. So, you know, there's a lot of moving things that go with it. So I'm not so sure we want to just jump, but I think we should continue conversation about this. And I think we need to consider finding property, find out what the cities are doing or nearby, you know, also what their thoughts are. Maybe we just, maybe it's just one big economic development group meeting. I don't know where we start. So it's just, it was just a process.
I think with the idea that we're limited to one, we need to put a lot of research into it, make sure it's the right spot. I mean, the county's awful big, and if it's like you get one spot to improve in the county, you know.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If you said, oh, well, you know what, we're going to go develop by the Kankakee watershed and make it a cool subdivision that has views of the Kankakee River. I don't know. Are you going to try and do, you know, are you going to put it in between Michigan City and LaPorte where there's, you know, roads and sewer and you can do that, and bigger chunks of property that you can make sure that people are interested in doing. You know, this exercise, absent a landowner that says, I want you to do this for me, becomes an action of the government presupposing that you want to do it. So it takes that extra level of due diligence with the landowner or a buyer or whatever to say, are you okay with this? Because you don't want to waste the effort to go through all this and spend time and you know, the land guy goes, no. I mean, to the point where the detail that we put together for the project in Porter County really said the cost is, you know, the price point for the house is this much. You know, here's what it looks like. So there was extra effort put into not only identifying those deficiencies in their own ordinance, but also, and this was to the benefit of the jurisdiction, recognizing that there's going to be some additional costs related to this, and they upped. They put their fees in, I guess, in the right amount compared to others. You know, they were competitive. So instead of, you know, a small town saying, you know, $2,000 for a fee sounds like a lot. I'm like, does it? I'm like, no. How about $5,000 to get a tap in? You know, so those things all get hammered out. They're all part of that discussion. But it starts with the willing property owner with the right piece of dirt that has the access or exclusivity that people might want. And you know what? The residential TIF is not designed to build 1 acre houses on 1 acre lots. It's not. It's to develop some density. And so if the county is not ready for that, hey, this is about density and it's about different kinds of uses, then you're going to spin your wheels and probably not be very attractive to the development community because they want to be flexible. You know, not one size fits all, or there'd be people be lined up around the corner here, and they're not yet. So, you know, this is a tool to help them, and it's it's a way to create a partnership with the private sector.
I think the city of LaPorte is actually working on one right now.
I think you're correct, but I just want to make sure that we're talking, communicating, and as Mr. Reardon had mentioned, you need the surrounding area to have the buy-in because if all of a sudden you're now putting density, it needs to be near something that can handle
Yeah.
You know, whether it be something off of, yeah, whether it be something, you know, in a rolling prairie area on 2, or going another direction on 2 or 6 or whatever. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Mr.
So
Parker?
this is basically the same as a commercial one, it's just for housing, right? And I mean, theory, it's the same thing. So I was glad to hear you say that in Hebron, they kept a little bit of that fee, because what concerns me about it is, like you said, the schools. You know, if you get too much coming, then it's hardship on the schools, and so I'd ask that as this happens, that is kept in mind.
And so, not surprising to me, the schools were very happy to have that happen because they need students. So, in the way that the way that the property taxes and its participation in school funding is, I mean, it was so diminished by the changes in the 1, 2, 3 cap. You know, you're talking about basically transportation funds, and that's what this property tax is supposed to go for. So it shouldn't be a factor. And in fact, the one that I was working with in Trail Creek, the Michigan City Schools, like, great, how many kids? You know, maybe 100. They're like, wonderful. So I forget what the dollar amount was there, and the information is shared. It's X dollars. So unless the school is full and they don't want growth, when they can ask and they can say, we don't want any growth, then maybe we're not building it in the right spot. You know, think of it that way.
Have you heard of any communities that have taken an approach of trying to get communities to compete or landowners to compete to make the case why they should be the place that we do our single housing TIF in? Can we kind of put it on them to come forward with that interest so that we're not presupposing, as you said earlier, that they're going to be interested?
You know, I get what you're saying, but if that's the case, then somebody's already trying to build a subdivision. You know what I'm saying? They've already come and talked to somebody about, I want to build something here. But I think in the spirit of soliciting input from the public, you know, maybe that's a tactic we take on our website and our webpage, is that we are interested. But as a group, I think I would like to, kind of like when municipalities or redevelopment commissions divest of property, you know, you're going to put it out there, but we need to know what the specifications are. So what we're looking for is a minimum of, you know, is it 250 houses? What's the price point? Because if you don't have that in there, and then the landowner's trying to figure out, and they're chasing their tail, and essentially we're just asking them to sell the dirt, and for how much. And so how it has worked in other places is there is somebody who does all the entitlements, and that's a third party person that comes in and they do all of the negotiating, all of the zoning, all of the platting, all the design for the roads. They're the buyers of the bonds. They complete all that. Then they sell that product to a builder. These are not builders.
So it's not some of the big outfits like Lennar that have the separate companies, or D.R. Horton, or aren't
They are the ones doing
doing it? Okay, got it.
Yeah, these, you know, I did be specific. They are, Horton is doing Hebron. They're like, we'll take it. And they're in line to do the other 300. Horton is doing, they're doing as much residential development as they possibly can. They're in Hobart, they're in Winfield, they're in Crown Point. Lennar peeled back a little bit. But those are the people. This is not like, you know, Matt and Mark's, you know, contractor deal. We're gonna build 3 houses a year. This is not it. This is, you know, like in the instance of Hebron, Horton's gonna do 20 houses before the end of the year. Now they just put one up. It's 10 days for them to frame it, and then whatever happens inside to close it. So once they decide, they're in, and so they have the resources and the materials. Whereas a smaller guy, well, Tom, you know what that fight is. These guys have everything they need, and you know, smaller guys, you got to run to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever and try and buy materials. It's tough to compete, but those are the people. And you know, I think LaPorte County has enough standing and proximity and the other quality of life things that are going for it. But I'm to the point where, why not? I mean, I'm working on projects in other states and literally far away from anywhere. And the keys to those have been, do you have utilities to these sites? We'll market them. And that's what they do. They kill it.
Matt, how many acres would be if the county were to start? If you were to shoot from the hip,
At least, I would say at least 300 acres.
300 acres.
Yep.
So
I mean, that's figure how many houses on a lot?
Well,
three.
that's what
two?
I was gonna say, those are quarter acre lots if
Yep.
you're talking sewer and water, and if you
Yep.
have storm sewer, so that puts you at 1,200 homes. Now, you're gonna lose a little bit, but
Okay.
they're quarter acre lots, you're gonna lose some for the roads and retention, but
So that's a pretty good. That's a good goal. 1,200
what we
units.
did behind McDonald's, those are quarter acre lots.
Yep.
So my goal of this was just to kickstart a conversation, which I think we've accomplished. Are we all comfortable with letting this percolate for a month? Let Matt think about it.
I'll get some more
Looks like he
info
wants to
together.
say something.
Doug wants to say a couple things.
I know it's not public comment, but I'm speaking as the Plan Commission and BZA attorney, and I have been for, over 15 years, I'm sure. You gotta get the subdivisions approved. And I'm not speaking to the current commission set, I'm talking about the commissioners that have been sitting up there for years. You get 4 farmers objecting to a subdivision, they're gonna turn it down. All right, we haven't had a subdivision approved since I can't remember. And I was there when we were discussed and set up the sewer for Rolling Prairie. And the idea was we'd have a corridor that could be improved. And a major subdivision got turned down because the farmers were complaining about killing. I'm not pointing at you, but you have statutes protecting you on these issues. And we also talked about 39 Conservancy District, and the townhomes were turned down because there wasn't enough water. My point is, this is a great idea. If you could get a subdivision approved in this county, because it gets approved, it goes through all the process for the plat committee, it gets approved by the plan commission, and it gets shot down by the county commissioners because you got people objecting. But let me tell you, I've been the BZA lawyer, the plan commission lawyer for a long time. Somebody is always going to object. So if you're gonna do it, you need to make sure you've got the buy-in from the county commissioners and understand there's gonna be neighbors that don't want it. Okay, because we've done some planning in this county, believe it or not. It hasn't been willy-nilly. And when we plan for improvement in areas, you can't get the county commissioners to approve it because somebody doesn't want it. I just want to make sure you all understand that, because if I show a little frustration, it's true. Because we can't get anything done.
Not sunshine and rainbows.
Well, nobody's asking, those 2 subdivisions I'm talking about, there's one we can't get back on the commissioner's calendar. I don't know why. It was approved by the plan commission, but the 2 projects that I'm talking about within the last year, I mean, those were in areas planned for expansion. So what else could you possibly do to work on the housing shortage we have? And I agree. You talk about paying jobs. Well, you need places for these folks to live. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug?
Yeah.
Is that the one up by Schultz Road you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Wagner, is it?
Yeah, I've been asking about that.
Tony
Get
was
it on there.
Tony Hendricks was emailing us. So what is the holdup? Why can't he get on
our agenda?
I thought the one on 39, the townhomes was approved.
Uh-uh.
The developer pulled out
No. Well, they pulled out because
because of the water.
because of water.
Solid now.
I mean, you and I have had this argument,
Right.
friendly argument, yeah, but
Right.
they're done. I don't know what's the status on that nursing home is,
Right.
but the other I'm talking about is the
Supposedly
one,
still moving forward.
yeah, the one near 350 is the other one I'm talking
Yeah.
about, and that's. We specifically sat when we were putting in the sewer for rolling, saying, "Oh, okay, well, we could run an extension, et cetera, et cetera." So, when we talk about a huge project like this, we got to be able to get little ones through also.
Yes.
Because nobody's asking the county for any money on those. And so I think it's a great idea, but we gotta be realistic about, my point is that when you go through this whole process, set up the area, set up the lines, well, it's gotta get through the county commissioners to get the subdivision itself approved. And so I think they need to be involved and get a buy-in for the current city county commissioners, because you don't know who's sitting there in 5 years. That's the other problem you got with the long-term planning project, because you could put all this work into this project, but you could have 3 people that could put a complete stop to it.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think this is a difficult conversation to have, but it's an important one. I know from the Vibrant Community study that was done not too long ago, which surveyed some 1,000 people in the county, one of the biggest, most important issues was housing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something we're going to have to focus on. Mr. Parkman, you want to add something really quick before we...
One thing I'd ask, and I don't know who does it, but we've put in 3 developments and they were all zoned R1 already. Is there a way we can go through our county district and see what is already zoned R1.
Yeah,
It's already zoned. You just have to follow the standard then.
well, when we did the master plan, you know, when we did the zoning maps, which we adopted, now my memory's bad, 10 years ago, I think. That's exactly what we do. Where we thought that we'd get improved residential, okay? Then we went through 4 years later, I think, and did some revisions, some requested revisions. But that, yeah, the way it's set now is consistent with the county's master plan, which we're due for an update, but that was 15 years ago, I think, we did the master plan. I think you gotta do it every 20 years, and we're about to revise it, but yes. But a zoning change is not a difficult thing to do if you got a good plan too, so. And if you're gonna do a planned unit development, which I don't know if does a PUD qualify, you know?
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
The whole issue is that the commission agrees to forego the revenue. That's really the rub.
okay,
How you
alright,
plan it or what happens in there,
okay.
you're good. But either way, so that helps with the mixed use, but. And we do have maps, by the way. Randy asked us a handful of years ago. Sitting there barking like I'm on my couch. Randy had asked a couple of years ago to get together some locations, and we did. With an eye to what's the zoning, are these guys willing, are they willing sellers, maybe, outreach occurred, so we'll dust those off again, and they were in logical places that had an opportunity to get sewer and water where you weren't stressing the system, you were making it affordable. I mean, the whole idea is to make it so that the builder can get out there and buy these lots at a marketable number so they can sell them and they can make money, and that what it goes into that lot price is everything we talked about. Water, sewer, land, storm, all that. Legal fees, soft costs, all goes in there to the lot cost.
We also had meetings with Farm Bureau, sat
did.
down with them to talk about, because, agriculture is a huge economic development thing in the county, and we don't want to just go in and start yanking out a bunch of ag land. So we had meetings with them also to figure out, what they felt was the best way to make it all work.
So we need to do, if that's a suggestion of the board, we probably need to do that again.
Yeah.
So let's,
So to wrap this up, are we all comfortable with Mr. Reardon moving forward with, let this percolate some, us give him ideas, he sends us some ideas, and we bring this back up at another point in the future and look into it?
Yes,
Some
please.
serious consideration?
Yes, please.
Cool. Okay, then I think we're set with this, and we'll move on to the last item on our agenda, which is House Bill 1454 Annual Spending Plan Requirements. This was something else that came out of our AIC training, was just that there is a new requirement for us to come up with an annual spending plan. I was going to pull up the bill and try and read something from it, but it's 280 pages long, so we're not doing that. I just want to make sure you're aware of it.
yeah, so that's,
We're letting him just,
yeah, it's slightly more detailed than what's required now, and it was part of the, I don't know, they got rid of, anyway, it was kind of a toss in, so to speak, for more accountability. I don't understand. This doesn't have anything to do with us. Let me say that. This is all targeted at specific locations. And as I asked Representative Slager about this very topic and stuff that was in this bill, I just said, well, if you have a problem with a specific area, why don't you just create special legislation to deal with that specific area and leave the rest of us alone? And he laughed and said, Mr. Reardon, we don't do special legislation. I said, yeah, that's why we have gaming boats up here, Al, sure. So they threw it in there. It's a little bit more, it's nothing more than we're used to. It's a budget line item that's going to talk about just what we talk about at each meeting: extending utilities, facilitating investment, and what happens with the revenue. So it's
Sounds like you're on top of it.
We are.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other business? Anything anyone else wants to add?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Now we know whose fault it is we went over 30 minutes.